On the morning of December 1st, 1948, two jockeys were exercising their horses along Somerton Park beach, a few miles south of Adelaide, Australia. At approximately 6:30 in the morning, one of them noticed a man lying against the seawall. The man was well dressed, a brown suit, a tie, polished shoes, which the pathologist would later note were unusually clean for a man who had allegedly walked to the beach. He appeared to be sleeping. One of the jockeys raised an arm as if gesturing at something. He did not react. He was dead. Police were called. A doctor examined the body at the scene. The man appeared to be between 40 and 45 years old, well-built, well-nourished. His muscles, particularly in his calf and feet, were unusually developed, leading early investigators to wonder if he had been a dancer. His face was composed, not distressed, not in pain, the expression of someone who had simply stopped. There was no identification on him, no wallet, no keys, no letters, no documents of any kind. His clothing labels were removed, every single one, every tag, every manufacturer's mark, cut away, clean edges, deliberate. Someone had done this systematically to every piece of clothing on his body. His fingerprints were circulated to police agencies across Australia and internationally. They matched no record anywhere in the world. The cause of death could not be determined. 3 medical witnesses who testified at the inquest agreed only on one thing, that his death was, in their professional judgment, not natural. The body was embalmed. For the first time in South Australian history, a deceased person was embalmed before burial, specifically because investigators believed they might need to examine it again. They were right. In May of 1949, 5 months after the body was found, pathologist John Cleland re-examined the corpse. He discovered something that should have been found in the initial examination. Hidden inside a secret fob pocket, sewn into the waistband of the man's trousers, was a small piece of paper. It had been carefully trimmed, not torn, around 2 words printed in an old Persian typeface. Tamám Shud. In Persian, "It is finished," the final words of a 12th century collection of poetry called the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. 3 weeks later, a man contacted police. He said he had found a copy of the Rubaiyat in the back seat of his unlocked car parked near Somerton Beach on the night of November 30th. The night before the body was discovered. Police tested the paper. The scrap from the dead man's pocket was a perfect match for the final page of this book. On the back cover of the book, in pencil, were 5 lines of capital letters. No spaces, no punctuation, no apparent pattern that any analyst has confirmed as language. Naval intelligence examined it. Government cryptographers examined it. For 75 years, amateur and professional code breakers have examined it. It has never been deciphered. Also on the back cover was a phone number. Police traced it to a woman living approximately 800 meters from where the body was found. She was a nurse. She had owned a copy of the Rubaiyat, she said, but had given it to a soldier during the war, a man named Alfred Boxall. Police immediately suspected Boxall was the dead man. They were wrong. Boxall was found alive in Sydney, with his copy of the book intact, Tamám Shud still in place. The woman was shown a plaster cast of the dead man's face. Every officer present later described her reaction as significant. She paled. She appeared to sway. Then she composed herself and said she did not recognize him. Her identity was sealed by court order. She died in 2007. Whatever she knew, she took with her. A month after the body was found, police located a suitcase at Adelaide railway station that appeared to belong to the dead man. It had been left in the cloakroom on November 30th, the day before the body was discovered. Inside, a dressing gown, slippers, 4 pairs of underpants, 4 ties, no socks, an aluminum comb, American manufactured, a packet of juicy fruit chewing gum, also American made. The clothing labels had been removed from everything in the suitcase as well. Every item, consistent, methodical, planned before his death. One item had a name on it, not a label, a name stitched directly into the fabric. Keane. Police traced it extensively. They found a missing sailor named T. Keane, but his appearance did not match. A reel of orange thread in the suitcase had an unusual stitch type. It matched stitching used to repair clothing found on the body. The same thread, the same hands had packed that suitcase and dressed that man. Australia in 1948 was not simply a Pacific nation recovering from war. It was an active intelligence environment. Adelaide housed a major naval installation. Soviet intelligence was actively recruiting across the Western world. And the dead man, with his American possessions, his removed labels, his hidden pocket, and his undecipherable code, had the profile of someone who operated outside of normal civilian life. His teeth were unusual. He had no upper lateral incisor teeth on either side, a condition present in roughly 2% of the population. His calf musculature corresponded to almost no known occupation. Nobody came forward. In 2014, South Australia Police granted a University of Adelaide professor named Derek Abbott access to the dead man's plaster death mask. Abbott had been researching the case for nearly 2 decades. During that time, he had developed a theory that the dead man and the nurse had been in a relationship. He had tracked down what he believed was her granddaughter. He had, in the process, fallen in love with the granddaughter and married her. The case had consumed him to a degree that is difficult to describe in any other terms. Hairs had been inadvertently preserved in the plaster cast when it was made in 1949. Abbott worked with American forensic genealogist Colleen Fitzpatrick to extract DNA from these hairs and upload the profile to GEDmatch, a genealogical database combining profiles from multiple commercial DNA services. In July 2022, Abbott announced his conclusion. The Somerton man was Carl Charles Webb, an electrical engineer and instrument maker born in Melbourne in 1905, a man who had lost 4 close relatives in 7 years, a man who liked poetry and wrote his own, a man who had vanished from public record in April 1947, 18 months before his body appeared on Somerton Beach.
Carl Webb liked poetry. He had written his own verse. He may have carried the final words of a poetry collection he loved to a beach in Adelaide and hidden them close to his body, as private as a thought. South Australia Police declined to comment. Forensic Science South Australia declined to comment. As of the recording of this episode, neither body has officially confirmed Abbott's identification. Abbott's earlier theory that the Somerton man was biologically related to the nurse's family had been disproved by the same DNA analysis that identified Webb. The granddaughter he married had no genetic connection to the dead man. His two-decade theory was wrong. The code on the back of the Rubaiyat has not been solved. Abbott has suggested it may have been horse racing notation. This has not been confirmed. The cause of death has never been established. The exhumation of the body in 2021 for DNA analysis produced no new information about how he died. And the nurse, whose identity was sealed and who died in 2007, was found to have had a son whose rare dental and ear characteristics closely matched those of the Somerton man. Whether this means anything has not been determined.
There is a version of this case in which everything is simple. A troubled man from Melbourne traveled to Adelaide in late 1948. He had been struggling mentally after a series of losses. He went to the beach and died by suicide, using a poison the forensic science of 1948 could not detect. He had removed his clothing labels for reasons connected to his mental state. The code was a personal cipher for horse race betting. This explanation accounts for most of the documented facts. It is what Derek Abbott now believes. Abbott has spent more time on this case than almost any other person alive. But it leaves several things unexplained. It does not explain why a man in mental distress would systematically remove every clothing label from everything he owned, including what was packed in his suitcase, before traveling to a beach to die. That is not a typical behavior pattern in any documented psychological profile of suicide. It does not explain why a man in mental distress would systematically remove every clothing label from everything he owned, including what was packed in his suitcase, before traveling to a beach to die. That is not a typical behavior pattern in any documented psychological profile of suicide. It does not explain the secret fob pocket sewn into the waistband of his trousers. This pocket was not a standard feature of any suit of that era. It was added deliberately to conceal something. It does not explain why the nurse required a court order to seal her identity. The documented record, if we keep only what is confirmed. A man was found dead on an Australian beach. His identity was removed from every object associated with him. A hidden code has never been solved. A woman who may have known him died with her knowledge sealed. In 2022, DNA analysis named him. The authorities responsible for confirming that name have not done so. His cause of death is unknown. His purpose on that beach is unknown. Carl Webb liked poetry. He wrote his own verse. He may have chosen the final words of a poetry collection he loved as the last thing he ever said.